Howdy, y'all, and welcome back. I'm Kurtis Sunset,
And I'm Leah Halston.
and welcome back to Weathering Rainbows.
The next morning, I wake up in my hotel room and I'm looking around and there's a yellow jockstrap on the wall on a roller skate. And we do have a picture of this. Do you think we can post this picture?
I'm going to kick this one over to you to start first this week.
I think that's fair because I let you go first last week. I was very boring this week, you guys. I didn't do anything on Tinder. It's just been a busy week for me with the weather change and everything that's going on, like with the podcast and things at both jobs and stuff. So I'm going to just say that Thursday night, I started feeling a little weird and I started getting like a raspy tone in my voice. So I didn't pay nothing to it. Thursday night I worked, went out for a little bit to have a little cocktails after work. And I think I may have had too much to drink on Thursday night and woke up Friday for work at like 9 o'clock and I have to be to work at 8. But I showed up to work and I started talking to people and people was like, "You sound funny." And I'm like, "I know. I sound like Frogger, the guy from the Little Rascals." Worked all day, then got to work at Play that night. And I just kept saying, my voice sounds funny. So went out to MC. And the first thing I got out was, "What the fuck is up? How y'all doing?" And then after that, nothing was coming out my voice. Like I was like, "What's up?" Like I was forcing myself to talk. So,
oh my gosh,
you can see or hear it in my voice a little bit, Kurtis. I think you can,
yeah,
because I can still hear
raspiness.
But I think it was the weather. You know, the weather's changing around here, and my voice can take it. I felt fine. So
you actually did promise them a story this week.
Okay.
From a time in Columbus. So I think you got to tell them that story if they came back.
Okay. I went for a show called Legends in Columbus with Virginia West over at Club Virginia is the name of the club. And it was a great weekend. Some friends, Kurtis, and a bunch of us decided to drive up and support me and things. So the night of the show was fantastic. Then Virginia invited everybody over to her home afterwards. Pool, food, and everything. We're having a good time. And everybody's just having fun. Next thing you know, people start getting in the pool. And of course, me being drunk, I said, "You can't get in this pool unless you're in a jockstrap." So we made everybody.
You would not let anyone in the pool without a jockstrap.
I would not let anybody in the pool. So then I got a little bit bold and I said, "Now, since everybody's in the pool, you have to take the jockstraps off." So that happened.
And for the first part, I just have to clarify. I was the last one. I held out. I was like, "This is not a good idea. I should not be like doing this." You know, my good like little lawyer sense came out and it's like, somebody's gonna like catch me like in this pool with all these boys. Yeah.
Well, first of all, I felt sorry for her neighbors because we were loud and I know the neighbors got a show that night. But you know what? I was super proud of you because if you know Kurtis, if you guys know Kurtis, like I know that he's very his image and his profession and stuff. So I was so proud that you let your hair down and you just went on and had fun with everybody. So I was really shocked that you allowed yourself to take off the jockstrap. So speaking of the jockstrap, the next morning, I wake up in my hotel room And I'm looking around, and there's a yellow jockstrap on the wall on a roller skate. And we do have a picture of this. Do you think we can post this picture?
Oh, yeah. We can post it.
We do have a picture of this because the first thing I did was grab my phone and took a picture of it. And I posted in our friends group. I said, y'all, I just woke up. I said, there's no man in my bed. Nobody came home with me. But there's a jock strap hanging on the wall on a pair of skates. So we laughed about that. And then come to find out, it was Kurtis's jock strap. But the question is, how did your jock strap get in my hotel room?
It's
still a mystery.
Clue.
It's still a mystery.
For the record, I was never at Leah's hotel. Like, somehow my jock strap moved from this party to Leah's hotel without, like, neither of us knew how it got there. So,
and we stayed in 2 different hotels.
I just remember, like, being like, okay, it's time to go. Like, I'm talking to this guy. It's like, he's like, so where are we going? Like, your place or mine, and all this kind of stuff. And so we went back to my place, but I could not find my jockstrap. I had no clue where it went.
So y'all hear this? You left free balling.
Oh, absolutely. I was in a hurry, and I don't think he would have cared to take the jockstrap off. So
he was very handsome and very, 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 very fine. So that's the story, y'all. So we'll try to get this picture up that so you can just see what I woke up to. We laughed about it. It was so funny, and it's a mystery how that, out of all the jock straps, because there was about 8 people there, about 8
at least, yeah.
Out of all the jock straps, that it was Kurtis's that ended up in my hotel room on the wall.
Yep. Well, this was my week. One of my friends sent me a link, and first off, I was like, "Why is my friend sending me this link? We don't normally share like inappropriate websites with one another or videos." So I watched it, of course, and I was like, okay, I still have no clue. Like, yeah, these people are attractive. I have no clue like why they sent me this. So like I text him and I was like, okay, why did you send me this? And he's like, do you not know who that is? And I was like, no, I have no clue. And he goes, you should. It was one of you, like you hooked up with him in the past. So yeah. So fun times.
So it was you in the video?
No. It was not me in the video.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
But it was somebody that I had hooked up with and forgot that I'd ever hooked up with them. Like I didn't even know who it was until they reminded me, like, oh yeah, that makes sense now.
So this person is doing adult videos.
Yeah. It's the first time I've ever like not recognized someone that like was part of my past.
Right.
So that was kind of weird. I don't feel like I'm like that much of a like get around person.
You did that good, boo. You did that good.
Yeah, I don't know how I was supposed to phrase that. So
I mean, slut.
Yeah, okay.
Whore.
I'll let you say all my like inappropriate words. That's how we'll do this.
Listen, I'm not afraid. I mean, was the video great? Was it good?
It was. I mean, I'd probably watch it again. I ain't gonna lie.
Oh no.
I think it's on an OnlyFans or something now.
Okay.
So,
okay. The real question is, it's bad when you forget. That means it wasn't good.
Yeah.
See, now we get the real tea. Y'all, now we get the real tea. Because I know I forget. Because if it's not good, I'll be like, oh, that was you? Okay. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. Yeah, we did that one time. I think I vaguely remember this. Yeah. So that was my fun story for the week, getting that random little link. So next, we want to go into our get to know you questions.
Yeah.
If money was no object, what would your typical day look like?
I love money. I'm going to tell y'all this. I love money. That's why I work 2 jobs, because I like to have money when I want something. But do I spend it? No. I save it up. I think I wasn't raised around a lot of money. I grew up very poor. I grew up, I watched my mom hustle her butt off, and I never had the things that other kids had. So now, as I'm 46, and I just start learning about credit and savings and investing and stuff. So, I think now I have money and I'm scared to spend it. Like I'll go out and shop and then I'll put it back, or I'm online and I'll shop and I'll put it back. So, I just think that I would, if it wasn't no object, I would still probably just be the same little person that's, never knew I had it, it wouldn't be no different for me. Like, cause, I'm just not, there's people I call money hungry, and then, there's not. So it's sad that I'm sitting on this money, because I know when I die, it's just going to be there. But, I don't know.
I want to go out with like not a dollar to my name. Like I want to spend it all by the time I'm dead.
I'm different. I want to leave it to my nieces and nephews that's coming up, like I came up, that don't have anything, or I'm gonna have it spread out, like put some here, go bring some there,
Yeah, I think you got to work for it though to appreciate it. So like, I think you've worked for it, so you can splurge a little bit.
But and so the thing is, I'm scared because like I've never had money. I didn't grow up around money, so now that I have it, and I'm not saying I'm rich, y'all. I'm just saying I have the money. I'm not struggling. I'm not living from paycheck to paycheck, or and there was a time where I was living from paycheck to paycheck. But now that I have it, it's like, girl, you got, go get that dress, go get that jewelry, But I'm like, no, I might need this. What if my car break down? I think about things. So like, I might need this money later on. So if it wasn't an object, I don't know, honestly, know if I would be any different.
Yeah.
Because I'm not obsessed with it.
Some people don't change.
Yeah.
Warren Buffett still lives in that little bitty house that he's always lived in. So
yeah,
I think it's just a comfort level, even if you do have money.
Yeah. What talents do you possess that not a lot of people know?
And this is outside of the bedroom?
Oh Lord. Listeners, please share with us.
Well, I won't share those, but I would say things that people don't know about me. I'm actually really, really good at table tennis. So ping pong. Like even when I was little, I was incredible at it. Like I would play, like I beat the AAA champion like one time as a 12-year-old. Mm-hmm. So like that was just kind of a like natural gift, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Well, y'all listeners, that's the good side of him. He's like, I love the good side of you. But I think we want to hear a little bad side. My thing is, can you tie a cherry stem with your tongue? Or,
All right. I will say this. Like there's a reason why, Christian Grey was like that prim and proper business guy, like you never know what you're going to get in the bedroom whenever you get that. Mm-hmm. I will tell you this little story. One time, like I think I was at play and this boy comes up to me and like starts hitting on me and stuff. And like, we're talking throughout the night. I'd say probably like 15 minutes or so into the conversation, he goes, "Now you're the one that has the straps, right?" Yeah.
Okay.
So apparently I like developed a reputation for having like straps.
Okay.
Tight downs.
Now we getting somewhere, y'all. Now we getting somewhere.
If you could go back in time and change one thing, what would it be?
I fought my way through middle school and high school because I was bullied so bad, and we didn't have bullying laws back then. And I kind of think that like I was at a point where, you know, I didn't want to be at school. I hated going to school. And, you know, the things that I know now, if I can just go back in time and talk to myself and, you know, and stood up for myself back then. And, you know, I was a scary little kid. I ran from everything. You know, I got beat up by a girl, and that made things worse for me in high school because this girl beat me up in high school, and I ran from her. And we didn't have laws like you can't hit a girl. So back when I was in high school, you could have popped the shit out of a girl, you know, and it was okay. But, you know, I ran from this girl, and it just made things worse for me my whole high school year. You know, I got jumped on. In high school, there's a scar on my lip. Like I was just walking, minding my own business. A whole bunch of boys came up and just started beating on me. And like, you know, I would just love to go back in time and the strong person I am now, the confident person I am now, I would like love to go back with that same confidence and strength and stand up and been able to stand up to those people that beat me and called me names and, you know, did all kind of things to me and made school miserable for me. And then, you know, a part of that would just like me to go back and just relive my high school years again, you know, and enjoy them. I didn't enjoy high school. Like I made it through high school and I graduated, but it was tough for me. It was a tough road for me. And I just sit and cry sometimes because I'm like, the things that I did just to get through school, to get a diploma, you know, and the person I am now, you know, I have tough skin now. So,
yeah, I would say I mean, you had a lot of strength back then too. I mean, you got through that and you actually graduated. A lot of kids would not have done that.
That time I got beat up by the girl, that just made school, because, you know, it was like, oh, you got beat up by a girl, you know, and this and that. It just made things worse.
Yeah, it's always hurts me to hear that because it's a struggle for me to hear stories about kids that like could not pass as straight in their high school years.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that's the breeding ground of bullying and everything that you go through. And like, I didn't have a lot of those kind of experiences just because I was able to pass as straight.
Right.
You know, I had a girlfriend, you know, I put up with those walls that I had to do just to get out of there. So I admire you for being able to get through it. I
build strength from all those times I got kicked and pushed and all those things, and it made me the person I am today. So I just hate seeing kids now that can't take it, you know, and harm themselves because of that. It's just sad. So now that I made you tear up.
Yeah, way to go. So that's something the listeners need to know that's coming from podcast land. Like, we do video now, so like you're actually going to get like genuine emotion on a lot of the videos. And I tear up a lot. I don't cry a lot, but I tear up a lot. So
yeah. But if you could have a magical power, what power would you choose?
I'm going to go with invisibility.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always fascinated by like that superpower, because I feel like that's like the ultimate power, because you can spy on anybody. You can really get whatever you want lustfully. And I mean, I would definitely use it for evil purposes. Like,
okay.
I don't think I'd be a superhero with my invisibility. So, but I mean, at least I'm honest.
I respect that honesty, because like, I would like that power too, honey, because I would be in the corner just like, yes, boo. Get it.
They'd be wondering why it was so windy. You'd be smacking on them.
You know, I'm gonna take y'all there. If I was invisible, and okay, so I have a huge crush on Ryan Reynolds. I love Ryan Reynolds. He is fine. He's 6'2", and I'm just in love with him. So if I had invisible powers, baby, I would be on set, and he would be like, what is going on between my legs? Like, I feel like I'm getting pleasure. Like, that would be me. Like, seriously.
They're going to have to hire you as like a fluffer for the next Deadpool movie or something.
No, we got to talk about celebrities one day, like our crush celebrities, because I have a few. Chris Pratt. Oh, baby.
You know, I used to get mistaken for him a lot. Like,
Really?
yeah. Like there was one time I was actually like having surgery in the hospital, and this
Mm-hmm.
nurse comes in and she goes, "Oh my God." Like I seriously, like my mouth dropped because she's like, "I thought you were Chris Pratt when I walked in here because nobody told me like who was in this room."
Right.
So it's like, all right, well, I'll take it.
Oh, wow. I love that.
But
That's a compliment.
oh yeah, that one's one I'll take. It's better than Chris Crocker. So,
Oh,
all right. One thing I want to talk about before kind of going into some other things. You have a big event coming up,
I do.
and it's for a charity that is close to my heart as well, and close for Weathering Rainbows. Like we specifically are targeting, a lot of our LGBTQ rural youth out there, kind of having some fun, but also helping them get to learn some of the culture. But one thing about rural youth is a lot of times they face homelessness, or, they're rejected for the holidays. One of the things that was the hardest for me coming out as gay was the years that I was not allowed at my family's Christmas. So dealing with that, like this has a huge place in my heart. And I want you to talk about like what you're doing for Sweet Evening Breeze.
We're going to be raising money for them. So I'm going to tell you how I came up with this. So about 4 years ago, 2018, my last pageant was Miss Gay U.S.A. I went and competed for my prelim in California. So I won Miss California U.S.A. Classic. Classic means over the age of 40. It means you're old and you can't compete with the younger girls. But I won Miss California U.S.A. Classic, and that was in January in 2018. And then so Miss U.S.A. is in May. So for you guys that don't know, pageants are costly. So when you do pageants, you do fundraisers to raise money. Hunks and Pumps was a fundraiser for me to raise money to pay dancers and buy food and gas and travel and flights and stuff for the dancers. So I ended up raising like $4,000 that night with Hunks and Pumps. So after the pageant, and I started thinking, Leah, if you can raise that much money for yourself to go do a pageant, think of what you can do to change somebody's life and help somebody, an organization. So I decided to bring it back this year. And Travis Phelps, one of our bartenders and managers at Play, I said, help me with an organization, because I've been here in Louisville for like 9 or 10 years. And, I'm also drawn to the homeless because, I got kicked out the house several times. I lived in the park several times for weeks and months, because of the fact that my mom didn't accept what I was doing. So I'm drawn to homeless, and not just youth. I'm drawn to homeless in general. If I see a homeless person, I'm at least try to give them $1 or $2 or whatever I have, or buy them something to eat. We came up with Sweet Evening Breeze, and I'm excited that we're going to be able to raise money for this organization that's just starting themselves. People don't know about them a lot, so they're just starting. And so we're going to do the benefit show on November 24th at Play to help them out. And the concept of the show is, I just wanted masculine leaders, LGBT business owners, or military men, or, lawyers, or, in the show that you would never think would do drag. The goal is, I want these guys to be men, masculine hunks that transform into gorgeous ladies. Guys be like, can I keep my beard? No. My goal for this show is you have to shave your beard. If you want to shave your chest, you can, your legs, whatever you want to do. The end goal is that they become beautiful women and the transformation. So I'm super excited to see.
I am terrified because Leah's making me participate in this.
Yes, yes.
And it's one of those things, like, it's for such a good cause. Like, I would not shave my beard for a lot of things, but this is one of those things where I will gladly help out and do my part.
I want leaders in the community to take their time out and do this. And that's why the first time I did it was so successful. People want to see business owners and all this, get up and drag. So, and I do want to take this time to shout out one of my really, really good friends I've known for years that I grew up with, Alyssa Edwards from Drag Race. Y'all know her. She's just such an amazing person. She came out and did her number. Then she found out I was doing hunks and pumps. And, kids, she loved kids. It's her heart, too. She has a dance studio. And she said, she got on the microphone. She said, Leah's doing a benefit show. So I want everybody in the house to pull out some money. She did an extra number and raised almost $1,100 something to kick off hunks and pumps.
That is incredible.
She did it for something good. So we're starting off with $1,100 for the organization. So shouts out to Alyssa Edwards.
And I would shout out to the Louisville LGBTQ community. $1,100 on one number. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So if that's any indication of how Hunks and Pumps is going to go, I think it's going to be a huge success.
Yeah.
So for the people watching the video, I did bring this because I was going to show Leah. I have gone all out, and I have gotten these little earrings that are heels. So,
they're so cute.
So we're going all out for this.
Oh, and I do have a twist to this, listeners. So I love a good competitive competition, but I also want the men in my show to feel special and not only feel special, but I want them to work hard and raise money. So I decided that the man who raised the most money will get a crown and a sash that say Hunks and Pumps 2021. So I'm actually turning it into a little pageant.
A little sash and all. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So everybody will have to come on November the 24th. Doors open at 7. The show starts at 8.
Yeah.
So come out and raise some money for a really good cause.
Yeah.
You will get to see my booty twerk as best as it can, which
Okay.
is not very good. So we'll see how it goes.
And if you can't make it, we promise we'll put up a little video clip of Kurtis and pictures.
A little transformation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe on our TikTok, do one of those transformation videos, right?
I can't wait. I love when the men walk in our shoes. Like, they're going to be like, this is what you go through every weekend. Yes.
If I don't trip and fall, I'm going to be happy with myself. So let's go ahead and turn to our last segment that we do in our opener, which is our Weathering Rainbows segment.
Yeah.
And have this little heart-to-heart moment.
Yeah.
So
I text you this week in concerns of the post about hunks and pumps and that. So being very honest and open, because that's what we do here, I was concerned that it didn't get enough likes and that it should have gotten in shares and stuff. And so I was in my feelings about it. And one thing I struggle with, and this I've been struggling with a lot, and it kind of holds me back from wanting to be on Drag Race and stuff. And I don't see how the girls do it, but I have a problem with I'm always thinking what other people are thinking about me. This is why I don't get on Facebook. This is why I don't like social media that much, because I'm scared to post something, because I'm always worried about what people are saying or thinking about me. And I lay in bed at night and I can't sleep. Sometimes I get in my head and I'm worried about, I'm always thinking about what people think about me, or I don't want to be perceived in a bad way. It's always in the community. If you're doing good, they always want to find something bad to bring you down. So when I posted the hunks and pumps, I posted a regular picture of me just from the show saying, this is my look for the night, and it got 200 likes. But then I post something that I'm doing good for the community and I'm raising money for the community, and it only got like 40 something likes. So it put me in my feelings. Like, people don't want to see me. I feel like people don't want to see me do good things. And they always look for the bad things.
Right. And I think that's definitely something that like a lot of us go through. I mean, with social media today, everybody's always watching their likes. They're watching their, the comments. They're watching all these different statistics. Even with companies do that now, and it's social media. So there's so much that plays into how all of that works out. With algorithms and whether people even see your post or not.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I text you because you were definitely in your feelings. I was like, I got to calm her down because she's feeling it. And, and I told you, I said, I think you posted like it was Monday or something. And, or maybe, no, it was a Saturday.
Yeah.
Which not a lot of people get on social media on Saturdays a lot of times.
Yeah.
And you got to hit them on the right hours and all kinds of other things. But I think the point that I really wanted to get across to you was the fact that you just raised $1,100 before your event even gets started.
Yeah.
That's huge. And I think that shows like that Louisville does love you.
Yeah.
At least the right people care about you.
Yeah.
And those are the only ones we should really be concerned about is, the people that are supporting us. If they're criticizing you and they're not contributing their own time, talent, or treasure to help you, then write them off, in my opinion, in terms of they're not super fans and they're not going to contribute to your future success.
Yeah.
This week for me, I didn't deal with a lot of, gay culture issues. I took the weekend off from doing pretty much everything. For those that don't know, I'm a lawyer. I write a lot. I do this podcast. I edit the videos. I edit the podcast. I do it all pretty much on my own, except for I've got a lot of help in terms of people scheduling interviews and the producers that kind of help with that. So I don't get a lot of time to myself anymore to reflect like I once did. And so I did a lot of internal reflection. And I think for me, it was very difficult to come to the realization that I had to give up some control over things. And part of that kind of stems back to our original story of letting my hair down on occasion, because I don't do that a lot. And I try to stay in control and keep my composure.
Yeah.
Part of that is because I care about how people look at me most of the time.
Yeah.
And with that, it goes into like the minimal task, like tasks that could be easily delegated or that I should be able to trust other people to do. That I just really struggle with that. And I think that plays a lot for me in relationships as well. Like it's where I get some of my controlling tendencies from is just really having that lack of trust issue. So I've been dealing a lot with that and kind of trying to figure out ways to trust people to do things without me having to like constantly hound them. Going off of this, I want to comment on this because it kind of ties mine and yours together. So I've discussed with our team multiple times now, like you cannot get anybody to do anything anymore on social media. Like you can't get likes, you can't get people to give you reviews a lot of times. Like even you could give out t-shirts, you could give out money, anything. And a lot of times you still will not get a response like what you would expect. And that's just a shock to me nowadays. It feels like you have to have either something to do with sex or humor to get any sort of pull. Yeah, so that's what's been bothering me.
Yeah, and that's true that, because like I said, we spoke about this where I can post a picture and just from a look, pain, and it get all of that, and then I post something good and it don't get anything. But I think you and I are kind of almost like the same. Like listening to you, we're the same. Like I have trust issues, and I also do like to be in control. And and which is something I'm working on as well, because at some point, what I learned from my last relationship is I'm not trying to be a mother. I'm trying to be a partner. And I
Amen.
find
That was
myself being a mother because I like control. I'm like, get up, wash these, so there's a balance that I have to realize. If I want to be in a relationship, I need to treat that person as a partner and not a child. And I guess it's from me having so many trad kids. So when I get a partner, I don't know how to treat them, So yes, listening to you, we do, and trust is another thing, because like you said, nowadays, and again, this would be another topic for us. Nowadays, there's so many ways for people to cheat and sneak. People can people are disrespectful. They can get in your DM and be like, "Yo, I've been like," and it's temptation. So, it's definitely something we both have to work on it, and I love that you took some time to yourself to work on that.
Yeah. I'll wrap up that you said something that I loved was, you didn't want to be their mama.
Yeah.
And so this is actually a phrase that I use quite frequently with guys that I am like potentially going to date. And I always use the phrase, you can call me daddy, but I'm not going to be your daddy.
Amen. Amen.
That's my phrase. So on that note, let's wrap this up, and we're going to kick it over to part 2 of this episode. So we will see you all next week.
Bye.
Howdy, y'all. This is Kurtis Sunset, and today we have a special guest. We have Bryce Wiebe. So I'm going to let him introduce himself to the world and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, gosh. My name is Bryce. I hail from rural areas. I'm a queer kid. I grew up in Perryton, Texas, and then was moved at 12 to Nebraska. I think like a lot of kids from those spaces, it was very fundamentalist evangelical sort of background that I grew up in, and sort of was in and around and deeply embedded in church cultures. My parents worked at a church, and then even after my parents divorced, my mom led music at a church. And, she was a music teacher, and church was just a big part of my life. And then it ended up shaping a lot more over time, I think. But like even as a little kid, like I pretended to be a preacher when we'd play house as like, as kids, me and my sisters. It was just like a position I knew that wasn't a farmer. I think it was like the first public performance I maybe ever saw too. That was appealing to me, I guess, in some way. But really, I sort of grew up in an obsessively religious household, and so I became an obsessively religious person, and was one of those kids that read my Bible, every night at age 11, cover to cover, and the whole thing. Were you an only
child?
No, I'm the youngest of 4.
Okay.
I'm youngest of 4 kids, 2 boys and 2 girls, and I was just a very curious and observant kid, and sort of, came out, to myself in college, and then went to divinity school, which seemed a natural extension to a lot of people, I think, for my life. And for me, it was really just a set of questions. And now I end up, working, engaging things I'm really passionate about. I sort of had a background in hunger and economics from undergrad, and, came to work on hunger issues nationally within the Presbyterian Church, U.S.A, and now do promotion work and fundraising and a lot of traveling and preaching and teaching. But I have a special interest and love of working with kids and youth.
Tell us a little bit about settings. Your job that you do with Presbyterian.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. So the church, of course, does mission and ministry, right, in local contexts, and then, different churches gather together, and, in our system, we have, the whole national expression, and, it's just like primarily I'm promoting things like disaster relief. Like we just did a couple of emergency appeals asking for, congregations and individuals to give money for Haiti and Afghanistan, and now in response to Ida.
Right.
So it's a lot of those kinds of things, and a lot of justice ministries, and a lot of relief and development stuff that the church has been active in for a long time. And then like I get to go and talk to congregations about it and meet little blue-haired Presbyterians and young folks and pastors and people of all walks of life, and get to share, at its best, I get to share with them a little bit of their story, right? I get to tell them about their value in the world.
Yeah. Did you grow up Presbyterian or was it?
Gosh. So I come from like Mennonite background, but like we grew up in a disciples church, but really where we grew up determined, like it didn't matter. Every church was really the same church, right? It was the same kind of stripe of conservatism, right? With a different name, with a different person behind the pulpit. So it really didn't matter where we went. And my parents were, they met at a Bible college, so that probably informed most of my upbringing. And so I didn't become Presbyterian until college when, the Presbyterian Church there saved my life. So
what was that transition like from Mennonite to Presbyterian?
Well, just from a general sense of conservatism and like, I've heard you talk a lot about faith and like it's an emotional thing in sort of evangelicalism and fundamentalism. And it wears you out in a lot of ways. It wore my nerves were on overdrive all the time. Yeah. And so I went to college like with no intention of staying anywhere close to church stuff, and ended up having a scholarship to sing in the choir at the Presbyterian Church in town, right? Yeah, the singers out here now, right? And I swear to God, the Presbyterian Church has done more, like, if it's done evangelism in the last 50 years, it's been through its church choirs, right? And it's saving queer kids out of like terrible situations just by letting them sing and letting them like not have to be overwrought in a religious space. It was a thoughtful place. It was a place where you could be intellectual, you could ask questions, you could be, you could rest a little bit. I went through that kind of tortured, pray your sins away every night kind of deal, right? Terrified every morning.
Absolutely. Now, are you the only one in your family that identifies as LGBTQ plus?
Yeah, currently. As far as I know.
As far as you know, yeah. You never know.
Right.
So what was that like growing up in your family and coming out?
Well, right. We, like my family still doesn't really talk about it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Or I never felt met by them in it, I guess. If they wanted to talk about it, they were talking about it with other people. If they wanted to reconcile it within their own contexts and thoughts, they did it not with me. And that's a sore spot for me continually, because it essentially ends up, I think a lot of us feel this way. It ends up negating, acceptance becomes not even particularly interesting, right? If it never had to account for the person who felt excluded, right? For the person that was abandoned in the process. Like, what is the pronouncement of your acceptance if not a reconciliation of how you were left out to begin with? But those are lessons I think queer bodies teach in all our relationships. I think that's one of the painfully spiritual like realities and resonances I think we bring to bear in our relationships, and one of the ways we heal people if they let us.
In terms of acceptance, obviously in your job as a Presbyterian, LGBTQ culture a lot of times goes away from religion.
Right.
How would you talk to somebody about acceptance and their faith to kind of pull them back in? Obviously, a lot of people have very negative reactions to that.
Right. I was one of the first things, couple years into my job, I was traveling. I was in DC. I went to a gay bar, right, and was there for an advocacy conference, and went out to this bar, and got hit on by somebody. Got struck up a conversation. I just asked what I did, and I told him what I did, and I had sort of a pat answer at the time that kind of helped people understand, what it was. But he honed in immediately on the religious language and on, particularly because Presbyterianism is associated with Calvinism, right? A theological family, had a Southern Baptist Calvinist father, right? Pastor, who was just incredibly abusive to him. And like, suddenly I'm in that story, right? Mm-hmm. Suddenly I'm not me. Like, it doesn't matter who I am. I am his father, right? I am the symbol of everything that destroyed his own sense of identity. And like, I say that to say, I don't try and reconcile anyone's experience with the church, a church, any religious experience. Like, I don't think it's valuable for me to try and like redeem that for them. I think what I found was a truth in spite of my sense of rejection, a truth that helped save me. And that's a different story, and it's mine. it's worthy of sharing because I think, well, because it keeps saving me, right? Like I tell it differently every time, and it says something new every time. But yikes, I would never hope to even want to help somebody put themselves into a religious situation. I think there are real benefits to religious communities when they're centered and surrounding principles of equity and justice and care, and so like finding them, great, do it. But doing it just to say you're a part of one is not worth it.
Yeah. Identify as gay, correct? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gay or queer generally. It's
okay. So how was that identification process of, coming to terms with both that and religion?
Yeah, I mean, it's an ongoing one, and it takes new forms. I felt like a gay kid probably from the moment I was consciously aware of like relationships, right?
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So it's,
at what age did you know?
I was desperately in love with another boy when I was 5 years old, right?
Yeah.
Like it like totally.
Yeah.
And didn't feel particularly compelled to not feel that way either. Mm-hmm. And but the process of self-rejection, right, was one.
Oh yeah.
And we don't account for that often, right? Because that's why the process of self-acceptance is so arduous and long. Because the process of rejection is also so arduous and long, because you're sitting there like, oh, why am I hurting myself? Like, I'm not quite sure. Mm-hmm. And then you find the story of why, right? And you keep telling it.
Yeah.
And so like I came out to myself in college in a near sort of suicidal moment. I didn't come out to members of my family till I was done with divinity school. So, that was, I was past 30 at that point.
Were you out to anybody in divinity school?
Yeah, I had a partner for a fairly long time during divinity school and after. I was out in that context, and it was graduation was torture for me. Because I wasn't out to my family, and they came, right? The Presbyterian Church had just passed, ordination standard changes to accept LGBTQ people as pastors, and my parents are sitting in the church where I've been interning, that's been fighting for equality for queer folk for 35, 40 years at that point. And like, I wanted to crawl in a hole and die.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
But as far as like oftentimes the difficulty for me in religious spaces is that I find like the Christian story and Jesus' story is like really gay, to be honest. Like it's pretty queer.
Let's talk about that. All right. I've never heard that phrase.
Like,
so
if you think about what his experience was, where he was like a hyper religious kid, right? He was going to the synagogue like every single day, but like in his middle age, he's not married to nobody. Yeah. Right. He's hanging out with a whole bunch of dudes, and he's got a very challenging relationship with his family of origin. And in fact, he talks smack about families of origin all the time. He also talks shit to every religious leader he can get in front of, at least if you believe the story as it's told, right? And he's sassy. He calls people hypocrites to their face all the time. Like it mimics, at least for me, my sense of a lot of what we are in culture. Like there's a deep irony to the way in which he preaches, the way in which he teaches, the way in which he refuses all questions and all questioning. He won't take on authority, right? He's like, bitch, please, come on, no.
Very passive aggressive.
It's very passive. Like he refuses to engage anyone's premise, right? Which, when I think of who does that, when I think of who engages in ironic practice, it's, people that are oppressed. It's drag queens. It's like... queer folk. And that's why season 2 of Pose is a sermon about the family, and season 3 is a sermon to the church, right? It's like we are, I think, the context, the spiritual context, the spiritual bodies for our time in a lot of ways, and not mine specifically, but I think ours together.
And I think that's true. I think LGBTQ people are by far some of the most religious people that I have ever met.
Right.
So how have you come across that in your line of work?
It's you find a lot of other LGBTQ people, like Yale Divinity School, where I went to div school, was like one of the few places that was very open for a very long time to LGBTQ plus people. And So you find a mix of all stripes. You find a sense of, even my own story, right? There was a sense of, my first stage was like, oh, I'm going to be gay, but not gay that way, right? Like,
Right.
And then it's, you sort of start to question your own, the origins of all of those things. And it's not, evolution's a bad term for it. I think it's a cycle of interrogation. It's an invitation to new things. But there was a lot of like, I would call it compliance gays, right? Like, I'm word perfect here. Like, you're going to have to like really fight me on something. And then there were those who were just take everything in question, right? Dismiss everything at the outset and start again. And I think I jump back and forth between those worlds on a daily basis.
I get it. One of the things that from my own gay experience was whenever I first had my first boyfriend, that was the one and only.
Right.
You were never going to be with anyone else.
Right.
That was your one and only. You're supposed to be married together.
Right.
And for some reason, even though like my family at that time was totally rejecting of LGBTQ culture, for some reason that religious part stuck in my head of you're supposed to be married to one person and one person only. And never experience anything else outside of that.
Right.
And so whenever my first breakup occurred, that was one of the roughest times in my life, because now I did not have the ability, because, my brothers weren't accepting.
Right.
And they had gone through multiple relationships and did, multiple things. So for me, it was like, I could no longer be like, well, at least I'm living more biblical than you because I only had one person.
Right.
So I definitely get that. Going into that, do you find it more difficult for certain members of the identity to be religious, or?
I think, it's, I would say that what's hard to do, right, is engage in religious communities, right? We're all, I think, fighting to make meaning out of our experience and in the narrative contexts of our families, our cultures, all of those things. So we're all practicing some sort of religion, at least I hope. I hope we're trying to transcend our own experience just by recognizing other people are having different ones. But I think it's challenging for, trans women of color, I think, have a very challenging time finding invitation, right?
Very true.
Like the very door to a religious community, to a building is often the biggest barrier. And religious people are not good at leaving their doors, right?
No. Yeah.
And they want to feel safe there, and they want to create safety there. And what we forget is that safety is supposed to be for vulnerable people, right? It's not a safety practiced for comfort. It's a safety practiced, in fact, in the acknowledgement that nobody's comfortable, right? That we're uncomfortable because there are people suffering in our streets today.
Yeah.
For no reason other than
it's about seeking
rejection.
that higher power. You need something that can bring you that comfort.
Right.
And I think that's something we all need. Has your family kind of come to terms with things, or?
I mean, I guess we're in a process. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of, silence, I think, has been a big part of my own process, because that was part of my desire, was to be perfect, to never tell a lie, right? Never tell a lie. That was about the thing that dominated my life, because lies are awful. Well, I just extended a lot of silences that accomplished the same thing, by trying to figure it out, right? By just trying to be perfect in what I said, or who I said it to, or what I wanted, being honest and earnest about what I needed. And I think we don't let ourselves off the hook for not knowing what we need, or being wrong for not knowing, or when we say what we need is what we need and then it isn't.
Yeah, I think LGBTQ people in general have a struggle to forgive themselves.
Oh, for sure.
And a lot of times it's based in that religious aspect of, you're expected to repent. You're expected to, do all these things for your sins, even though it's, in my opinion, and I'll tell all my viewers this, I don't think it's a sin to be LGBTQ+. I think it's the way we were born. But I think that's where that originates. And I think with all of our problems, a lot of times I feel like we amplify them. We amplify them,
Right.
and we refuse to allow ourselves to forgive.
Right.
And I think that honestly, that's what leads to a lot of those suicidal thoughts and
for sure.
suicide rates, in our culture. What would you tell? I know you said you had experiences with suicidal thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of that comes from religion.
Oh, absolutely.
How do you balance, what you were born and raised up through with this religion with nowadays accepting yourself?
So I'll say that at first I came out to myself in the context of prayer, right? In the midst of kind of a suicidal break. And it was a transformative and religious experience for me, one I rarely explain because most people
A
think
second
I'm crazy,
salvation.
right?
That's how it
is,
feels, right?
I mean, it is, and it is. And shit, is there a better metaphor for being born again, right? Other than trans people, queer bodies, right? People that engage literal in the renaming of self. Those are people with things to teach us about those religious principles. I think I get at this point, like I'm at a level or a place or I get really tired, right, of the justification. I get tired of the question, right, about reconciliation that's not named from a place of like, I want to learn more about how to be more, right? Mm-hmm. I want to approach difference with curiosity rather than condemnation. Like, it's really as simple as that. If we come to one another's difference, things that make us curious rather than, oh crap, I got to get rid of that.
Right.
We actually find there's more than what we've been told. And that's why I like religious practice, actually, because it forces narrative in the face of rule. Because all the stories in my Bible, near as I can tell, confront on their face a lot of the laws and rules and restrictions. By the characters, by who's included, by who does, what happens in it, and by how Jesus might turn a character 3 different shades and ways while he's reading the house down. So I get tired of not reading the house down, frankly. I get tired of not being able to say I didn't need to be fixed, right? I needed to be found from day one. And that's what I think everybody needs. They need to be found in their authentic truth in who they are. And that goes for everybody. That's what queer bodies teach. That's what LGBTQ people teach. Not to just do it for us, but to do it for everyone.
Right. I think that's a lot of times whenever I read the Bible, I read it in this aspect of situational awareness.
Oh, yeah.
Every single story in the Bible is very situational,
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think it's supposed to teach us. It's supposed to give us all these stories of, these people that have experienced, lives,
right.
And I think we even see gay people in the Bible.
Absolutely.
I think there's definitely gay people in the Bible. But
I'm gay. I'm in there.
Right. Yeah. So, that's definitely, I think we see that, and it's all about that situation. Everybody goes through their own story.
Right.
Everybody goes through their own religious experience.
Right.
And regardless of what you believe out there, you're still going to have to go through that.
Right.
So,
like, rigidity was actually a really recent addition to religious understanding, right? This fundamentalist idea is so recent.
And I think that's increased with politics, but
it's 100% political, which is the real religion in this
and
country.
social media.
Yeah.
I think those two things combined have really hurt the transformative power of religion.
Right. And I think then religious voices that were contrary to what was going on in the 80s and 90s with the religious right, they were quiet. They got silent instead of saying that's bullshit because of the Bible. They said that's just not nice, right? Yeah. And that's not a compelling reason. That's not a compelling thing to say.
One of the things they taught us in law school was if the facts are on your side, you argue the facts. If the law's on your side, you argue the law. If nothing's on your side, you argue the Bible.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, like that's the deal with
Tell
a lot of that.
Story. Did Viola Davis teach us nothing?
Right.
How to get away with murder.
Yeah. No, that's
will exonerate me.
Yeah.
Of course, she never did anything.
Right.
She never murdered anybody.
No, she was always good.
She was always hands are clean.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that.
Oh, Lordy.
Right. No, and I think, honestly, that's the other thing. Like when my friends and I get together, like we are doing social analysis through the lens of entertainment, through the lens of our sex and dating lives, through like that's what church is. That's what a real church practice looks like. We're trying to make a sense of what we're experiencing under a set of truths we think we share, right?
Right.
And a value set we hold dear, and we don't fight with one another about it. We fight around the edges of it, right? We try and fix ourselves. We try and address ourselves and as agents, both for good, but also of the crap that surrounds us.
Right. Do you have friends that are atheist or?
Oh yeah, most of my friends are non-religious, I would say. So
how do you? Obviously, religion's an incredible part of your life. How do you deal with that?
You know, it's only hard insofar as you know that. They're never going to get as excited as I do about the things that get me excited about, you know, what I might get excited about. But what they do affirm, right? And this happens to me a lot. I was actually at a big queer event here recently that I experienced such generative conversation and kinship around religious themes with people of no and multiple religious identities. And it's hard because I want to make my stupid dorky jokes, right? Like that's the hard thing that makes it hard, right? You know, when your friends and you have inside jokes about stuff you care and share about.
You can do that with any book.
Right,
you know?
right,
So.
Exactly. They do it with Harry Potter.
Yeah,
actually,
exactly.
All the time. They do it with like other things all the time, you know, Pokemon and a lot of anime stuff that like I know nothing about. But yeah, a good Jesus joke now and then would just really help me out, I think.
I get it, yeah. Definitely. Let's talk about your experience in divinity school. So you said you had a partner in divinity school.
Yeah.
What was that like? Did you all go out to events together or?
You know, it was, so again, there was a lot of queer space. There was a 30-year-old LGBTQ plus group on the campus there at the time. He was pretty involved with a spirituality and queerness group at the undergrad space. It was a total mixed bag. We had like great queer events at div school, but you know, you were always in a community where you knew you were an active piece of conversation, right? Like an item of an agenda, because all major denominations at that point and still ongoing, right, are like wrestling at us as though we were a problem, rather than a whole set of, you know, data, information, and solutions to a whole set of other problems.
Oh yeah. In terms of your dating life in divinity school,
yeah,
were you the only other gay person in divinity school?
No,
or were there...
so we had like a group of like 50 or 60 people. Like we were kind of a hidden relationship at the time, and because he had like a past sort of thing with someone else that would like half the school didn't even know I was gay until the second year, I don't think.
How many people were in that divinity school?
The divinity school had about 300 people, three you know, and
that's amazing. That's a huge percentage of LGBTQ people in divinity school.
Very big group. Well, I mean, when you think about it, if you're and because it's a university setting, you have a lot of people who want to be religious scholars. You have a lot of people who are going different paths than just kind of religious work. Yeah. And then you have so few places to pick from, right?
Right.
You know, if you're going to be, you know, queer and out, and have a good time with it, and like have a place to grow and, you know, foster things. You know, we studied queer theology, right, in at div school, and you know, one of my best friends is teaching a
queer theology.
Yeah,
Can you go
absolutely.
into that? Because I've never heard of that phrase.
Well, right. So like the idea that like similar to other forms of identity-based like study in academia, you know, that queerness, more than just an identity, is actually a set of practices. And when I pointed to irony before, like that's one of them. So like it's the invitation to see the transformative power of like interruption and transgression against binary systems and systems that reduce us to dehumanizing one another. And Marcella Althaus Reed became like a person that I loved to read, and she was an absolute genius. May her soul rest in power. Oh my gosh, what a genius! But a rare person. Looking at the ways, you know, And I'm drawn to the ways in which what we call indecent is actually not indecent whatsoever, but something being probably performed as a result of injustice or inviting a recalibration against something that we lost or made wrong.
Mm-hmm. How do you define the term queer?
Yeah, I use the term queer broadly, right, as a confrontation primarily with gender, right, which is a total construct and also deeply powerful in our system. So I still most of the time identify as male, not mainly because I don't have any frame of reference or understanding of what else to do and go by. These are the names I've had my whole life. Mm-hmm. But queerness is, I think, also an umbrella term, right, for that confrontation, which shows up in sexuality, which shows up in other forms of power dynamics that we confront and make not just either or, but transformative kind of circles around in solution. When I look back, I actually was it was a meeting I had, it was a church meeting I had, and we were doing some work on anti-racism and decolonizing, and one of the presenters invoked, like, when asked to use gender pronouns, invoked the term brother, right? A familial term. And I think because of my own sense of complication around family, but also just my own theologicals, like Jesus is constantly saying like who is my mother, right? Like that's what he says when his mom comes to church to find him. Like, who's she? Like that's a real bold thing to say. But it troubled me, right? Because I realized that my sense of gender was really founded in my sense of family. And it didn't, and because that in itself felt tense to me, I don't feel like maleness, masculinity, whatever it is that these collection of attributes people want to assign things to, like the name that needs is mine, right? And if it's all the same, it's my first name at this point. That's what I feel. I feel like Bryce is what I feel like.
It reminds me of the Crucible, where he's like, it's my name. It's the whole point of the thing, like what's in a name. I agree with you, and that's generally the way I like to do is go by the name. Don't use pronouns as little as possible.
Right. It's a fun challenge. It actually is one that started by trying not to gender God, right? In biblical reading, right?
And I talk a lot about spirituality, but it's like whenever you say God, and then you're like, it's a natural reaction to say he. Like it's a natural, like I'm writing and I'm like absolutely. He, but you always capitalize it. You got to capitalize it. But it's a natural reaction. So like I've had to constantly like break myself of that habit and even write he, she, they on God because, in the Hebrew language and stuff like that, the words didn't mean he, that they've transposed to that.
Right. And again, the language, I think, is just fascinating. And I think language informs and confines so much of what we do. And religion teaches us that for sure. And especially when it comes to God, because God becomes a name for a thing, not what we're actually trying to talk about. And theologians wind us through those roads all the time. But gender performance and gender questioning are great ways to have conversation about abstraction of God, right? How do we understand God if we don't understand he, she, they, them, our, like all of these other terms,
all encompassing,
all these and terms that exist in languages we don't even remember, right? We can't even recall.
Yeah, one of the most powerful things in my life was whenever I kind of went away from God. I went away for several years because I was like, what higher power could make me gay? Like what higher power could do this to me and put me through this life? Right. But one of the things that kind of brought me back was somebody said, for your entire youth, you were trained to put God in a box.
Right.
You were trained that God was, certain things, certain ways, but yet you were also taught he was all powerful. Right. So like, how do those two things conflict in that area? And that kind of, it opened my eyes in terms of if God is all powerful, he's not in a box. He, she, they is not in a box, they are everything, all encompassing. And that's the person watching out for me, So we do a segment on this show called the Heap of Trouble, which is a time in your life where you experience something in gay culture that you didn't expect. Okay, so it could be a funny story. It can be a time you got yourself into a little bit of trouble, whatever. So,
Lord. What can be shared that can be aired?
that's the key. Yes, we do not edit. We do not censor the show. But...
So yeah, the heap of trouble. I've gotten into a lot of heaps of trouble. One of my better experiences. Let's see if I can euphemize this in the appropriate ways. So I was hanging out with a friend of mine, right? We were just spending time at my place and had invited somebody over. I didn't hear back from them at all. Like for 20 minutes. So then we were like, oh, well, I guess they're not going to come here. So we invited somebody else, and then both of them showed up the exact same time.
Oh, gosh. Oh, wow.
And
how did that play out?
It played itself right in is
right,
what it said.
yeah.
It played itself in. That's what it did.
Okay. That is a heap of trouble.
It was a very tense. It was a heart attack moment, but
I think we all go through that one though. Like,
do we all?
I think that's a very common gay experience where you go on a date and you see an ex, or you go on a those kind of things.
Right.
Now, inviting two people over at the same time, that might be
right. Well, I mean, and then always like it seems like you are on X's and things like that. You're bumping into people that you either hung out with recently or just, it's small towns, right?
And it's always fun when you're on a date with somebody who has the same ex as you.
Oh my gosh.
Because that happens a lot in gay culture.
But I think that's also interesting. And it's one of the cool, it's one of the things I think we ask people to pay attention to, right? Because queer folk, same-sex, like loving people, your dating pool is going to be smaller.
Absolutely.
Right? And so I got 5 best friends, right, who all date dudes in a city of this many people. Right. You can't be, like, straight friends that I know, right, would never dream of dating their friend's ex. Now, we all have calibrations, right, within our friend groups of what that actually means for us, right? Like, if you're this kind of friend and this kind of ex, right? Yeah. It's all that.
If you were ever official on Facebook, that's the only way I'm counting it at this point.
Right. You went on 5 dates. You didn't matter. I could marry that person. Right. They're still in my book. They're still open. And like, I don't feel like that happens a lot for straight people. I feel like it's a like yes or no kind of, oh my God, he did you so wrong, like that kind of situation.
Gay people, we find ourselves like asking for permission. Like, I know you like went on a date with this person.
Right.
But I kind of like it, I totally get that.
Right, and he's not doing meth now, so like I think a better person, maybe right? I think maybe it's okay. Right. Like, what do you think?
Yeah. No, I get it. And that's it's we laugh about it, but it really is an issue within LGBTQ culture. Like, because our dating pool is smaller,
right?
We're gonna run into the same people, and I always tell people, because I've had people text me and they're like, "Hey, can I go on a date with your ex?" That sort of thing, and I'm like, "Look, just because they're not the right person for me doesn't mean they're not the right person for you."
Right.
So I would encourage
I hate
them.
Like,
By the way, I'm never hanging out with you again. Right?
Yeah. We can't be friends now.
Anyway, off the ex subject. Let's not go there. What's your thoughts on like friends with benefits?
How beneficial are they?
Are they paying my rent?
I mean, I think I don't know that I'd even call it friends with benefits. I think you can allow yourself, right, to understand just friendship differently. Like, each of my friendships are different, and some of them involve intimacies of different types and in different ways. And sex is also adult play, right? That's something that we often don't let ourselves say. And like, one of the reasons why it's important in a monogamous relationship and in a relationship that's one-on-one is because, gosh, if you can't play together, like, it's really difficult to stay liking and loving each other. And sex is a way that we play together.
I think in LGBTQ culture, we oftentimes, like, it's hard to just have friends like that are also
that's
LGBTQ.
very true too.
Like, like, it's you have to almost distinguish from the very beginning, like, this is a friendship, we're not going to go anywhere, and that's when things really blossom into a friendship.
Right.
But I think so often we find ourselves sexually attracted to somebody, and that's what becomes the friendship.
Right. And that is hard. And when you catch feelings, you catch feelings. And it's hard to be honest when you catch feelings. That's the other thing.
Yeah. And
that's where friends with benefits gets complicated, right? Because you
don't want to lose the friendship, but you also, you may have grown as a person and want to do something different. You may find somebody that you want to be in a relationship with, and then that friends with benefits kind of still lingers, it gets
so in the way, or it changes,
it makes things complicated. So
sex makes everything complicated.
Everything in life. I think we see a lot more open relationships and stuff in gay culture than we do in straight culture. And I think part of that is we've come to terms with the fact that, like, sex has many different meanings.
Lots of meanings.
It's,
absolutely.
It can be just for a fun experience. It can be something that's intimate. It can be a lot of different things, and just for your own mental health, like stuff like that you need to do. So
I could probably make a pretty robust list of different motivations.
Yeah, there's a long list. But.
Right, well, and we don't even ever just have one at one time, right? Like, there's never just one.
Very true. Every show we do what we call a pot of gold question, which is how we wrap up the show. It's where you can ask me absolutely anything under the sun that you want to ask me, and I have to answer it truthfully.
Without naming names, right?
Oh, Lord, we're going to go into X's or something, aren't we?
No. So, like, I got to tease around an uncomfortable story in a sexual situation. What's the most uncomfortable situation?
Oh, God.
That you can share, right?
Oh, God, really put me on that situation.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a pot of gold.
That is. I think you're gonna make our fans really happy on that one. Most uncomfortable situation I've ever been in, and it's something that I really regret. So I'm gonna be honest about it. But there was a time in which I had a rather wild life. I was in a relationship, had gone out the night before to a bar and had a little too much fun. The only time I've ever cheated in my life. And I can honestly say that the only time. Regret it for sure. But what ended up happening was this guy came over and, we did our thing. And then the next morning, I get there's like knocks on the door. Ooh. And it's the partner. And I'm like, oh crap. Like, I'm in this awful situation right now. So I have a good friend named Daniel, and he was sleeping in the room next to me. And so I literally was like waking this person up and being like, you got to go get in that bed. Like right now. Go get in that bed and just you slept with Daniel, okay? So that was by far the biggest heap of trouble I've ever been in. Don't cheat, people. Like, that's not a good thing to do, and absolutely wasn't worth it. I still regret it to this day, and I'm pretty sure he's probably finding out this for the first time on this podcast. Ooh. So I probably need to make a phone call.
Ooh, ouch! Wow.
So that being said, we get to, you made it really rough on me. Ooh, so
now here we go.
Have you ever been attracted to a friend and wanted it to go further?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And you got to elaborate.
Yeah. And that's not really been, I don't typically pursue a lot, and I don't, I'm so scared of rejection, like at the outset, right? But yeah, I've totally wanted more from friends. In part though, I will say, like, it wasn't physical attraction necessarily, though. I mean, that's part of it. Very, very attractive person. But like, especially given the time where we met and like got close, was an important time for me. And I don't know that they'll ever really understand that. And the ways in which they were present to me in a way that was easy and relaxed and different, right, from my other friends, from the other people, from the other energies in my life. in a way that invited parts of myself that I don't think I'd felt in a long time, parts of myself that I liked, parts of myself that helped me build communities, right, and make friends and deepen my sense of self, right? It's where he made me feel like I belonged in a particular way, and he didn't have to work to do it, and so that's what I responded to, right? I think as much as anything else is that I wanted to feel, he made me feel placed in a way.
Did it remain platonic, or did you develop that into something?
It remained platonic. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, we appreciate having you on the show today. Obviously, religion is such a huge topic for our guests and our fans, and I think even the people that I don't think I'm going to talk religion to, I end up getting into that subject on the show. So,
absolutely. I've talked more about religion on Grindr than probably anywhere in my life.
No, that's I don't think I would talk about it on Grindr, but that's very interesting. Maybe I should start every conversation that way from now on.
I wouldn't suggest it.
Let me talk to you about my Lord and Savior.
That wouldn't be how I'd position it either.
On that note, thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. It was a good time.
Well, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Don't forget to come on back now. I know we all love a little vibration, so if you are not already, go ahead and subscribe to this podcast. And we will surprise you on occasion with a new release vibration in your pocket. But in the meantime, if you find yourself alone or crossing new horizons along the Rainbow Trail, and you need a friend or even a laugh to get you through those dark and stormy nights, holler on out to us at www.weatheringrainbows.com, where you can find shelter in the blogs, videos, and other episodes that will hopefully keep you out of a whole heap of trouble. So until next time, y'all, giddy up, be true to yourself, and make the best of life. And wherever the wild tracks may lead you, may the rainbow always touch your shoulder.